I mean, even as an American, I found that insane. These are people who are earning a good income and they're so much in debt. Depending on your location, minimum wage in the US ranges from about $7.25 per hour in Tennessee to $16.10 per hour in Washington, D.C. Still, the vast majority of even single people who are working full-time at local minimum wage aren't making enough to get by. According to MIT's Living Wage Calculator, there's not a single state in the entire United States that offers a minimum wage that's in line with the living wage for even a single adult with no dependents. But this isn't a uniquely American problem. Over here in Germany, nearly 1 in 5 persons in dependent employment, around 19%, worked in the low-wage sector. This means that roughly 7.5 million jobs were low-wage jobs earning less than a gross 12.50 euros per hour, the majority of which are found in the accommodation and food services sector. So what does life look like for those working minimum wage, or workers with hourly positions that also have families on either side of the Atlantic Ocean? In today's video, we're taking into account the cost of living factors such as housing, utilities, food, and transportation to ultimately try to answer the question, who really has more money at the end of the day? And who goes into debt? So let's get started. Now, if you didn't catch last week's video, I highly suggest going and checking it out because it'll give greater context for the incomes that I'll be using to base today's analysis off of. Plus, you can learn more about how workers just starting out at minimum wage and those who have risen through the ranks to hold more managerial roles in the fast food industry have fared after taking into account taxes, social contributions, other pensions, and insurances. Yeah, just be sure to go watch that one first. But in the meantime, I'm gonna show you the base values once more, again, because they're going to be the starting point for this video. Our single worker in the US is a 19-year-old man named Steve. After accounting for taxes, FICA, Social Security, a small savings, health insurance, and long-term care insurance, Steve left last week's analysis with $22,163.49, or approximately $1,847 a month. Our single worker in Germany is also a 19-year-old man whose name is Max. He has the same occupation, professional experience, and personal dynamics. However, living in Germany, he has different relative earnings and contributes to various social contributions, which all affect his take-home pay. So at the end of last week's video, Max had 19,706 euros and 7 cents, or around 1,642 euros per month in take-home pay. But I didn't want to just analyze single workers working minimum wage at McDonald's. I also wanted to give some perspective on what hourly wage workers could earn with some experience and what happens when their personal dynamics change and they have kids and all of the expenses that come with them. So although both scenarios in the US and Germany do see greater yearly income, their liabilities and responsibilities have changed. So we found that our American Steve and Stephanie's family had $64,775.06, or around $5,398 a month in disposable income. And in contrast, Max and Mila, our German family, had 74,119 euros and 62 cents, or approximately 6,177 euros per month. So in short, where we actually saw pretty similar incomes between our single workers, the greatest difference was there for our families, with our family in Germany actually having about $13,000 more in disposable income once you adjust for the current exchange rate. Hi guys, like many of you, we're a busy family. Between our jobs, kids, errands, school, and everyday activities here in the Black Forest, many of you have asked me before, how exactly do we find time to do it all? Well, to be honest with you guys, we don't. Not all of the time. But when I can find something that fits pretty seamlessly into our routine, while still being cost-effective and fun, I'm all here for it. Recently, we started using HelloFresh, and it's truly been a refreshing addition to our mealtime because it takes the stress out of meal planning and shopping while also making our meals fun, fresh, and delicious. Every week, we have over 30 different meals to choose from as part of our flexible subscription. Plus, they only use high-quality, fresh ingredients from certified local producers and deliver the exact amount of fresh produce, meat, and dairy in recycling packaging via sustainable, climate-neutral deliveries. Plus, because you guys watch our videos and support our channel, we can pass on an exclusive offer for you to try HelloFresh too. Use the voucher code BLACKFOREST to save up to 90 euros on your first 4 boxes of HelloFresh in Germany. And make sure to click that link down in the description to snag free shipping on your first box on top of that. So why not give them a try? Check out HelloFresh today and be sure to let us know what new recipes you've been able to explore and create. Okay, so the first variable we should account for is shelter. But there are a lot of variables relative to housing that can affect the final price you pay. And when looking at minimum wage or even total household earnings that fall closer to the median income area, housing insecurity becomes a significant issue. Consider this. According to a new report by the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, people working minimum wage jobs full-time cannot afford a 2-bedroom apartment in any state in the country. And in 93% of the US counties, the same workers can't even afford a modest 1-bedroom. So given each state and locality's minimum wage, the report also found that the average minimum wage worker in the US would need to work nearly 97 hours per week to afford the average 2-bedroom home. Now, that being said, at the end of the day, on average, Germans and Americans both still spend around the same percentage, plus or minus 30% of net income on housing. And you know, quite honestly, it's almost impossible to do an apples to apples comparison when looking at housing. So I actually thought it would be quite interesting to use this 30% affordability ratio and actually try to see how far does that get you in the United States and in Germany to give some context and a bit of international insight to see how far you could stretch your dollar or how far you could stretch your euro. So let's start off in the United States with Steve. In the first video, I mentioned that Steve lives in Denver, Colorado. But because Steve is single and only working minimum wage, it's a bit of a stretch to presume that the average person would have accumulated enough wealth at his age to purchase a home. So he's going to rent for this calculation. Looking at Denver, Colorado, the price for a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment fluctuates greatly depending on the neighborhood and amenities that you're looking for in that apartment. But with a monthly net income of $1,846.96, 30% is equivalent to just over $554 a month. And with that budget in mind, there's not a whole lot available for Steve in Denver. In fact, according to Zillow, there's nothing available for Steve at that price point in his own apartment anywhere in the Denver metro area. So what that means at the end of the day is that the cheapest housing option I could find for Steve in the Denver area that wasn't low-income housing specifically was this bedroom in a shared house in the neighboring community of Aurora, Colorado. Rent is $650 a month. Now, although he will need to furnish his home bedroom, this actually ends up being a pretty decent deal since according to the listing, the rental price includes utilities and there's a washer and dryer on site. But it does mean that by taking the cheapest option available to him, he's still paying 35% of his income on housing, which is technically unaffordable. Now, in the last video, I had actually located Max in Berlin, but quite a few of you didn't like the fact that Berlin isn't exactly as comparable to Denver. So for this analysis, I'm actually going to move him to Stuttgart. The city proper of both Stuttgart and Denver are remarkably similar in population to one another, and both are part of a larger metro area that is also pretty comparable. Now, for balance, let's assume we're gonna still keep that 30% aim. So because his monthly take-home pay is 1,642 euros and 17 cents, this will give him a rental budget of just under 500 euros. So for Max, one of the cheapest options available is this studio apartment in Stuttgart. While the exact address is not shown on the listing, we do know that it's in the Feuerbach district and that there exists good connection to public transport. There's also a bakery and a gas station in the immediate vicinity and a grocery store that's just a 5-minute walk away. For this apartment, cold rent, which is just base rent, is 450 euros. And the landlord indicates that Nebenkosten, which includes general cleaning, maintenance of shared spaces, trash, heating, and a prepayment towards electricity and water, in total, he spends 610 euros in this category, which again, in all fairness, is also above the affordability threshold at 37%. But unlike the American option, Max does have his own bathroom and kitchen. Now for our families. In the United States in 2022, nearly 2/3 of Americans owned a home. And with a combined net monthly income at the end of last week's video of $5,397.92 per month, it gives them a budget of around $1,619 to spend on housing. Again, if we work within this 30% budgeting rule. But in the United States, it's important to note that property taxes in the US directly affect community resources in your immediate area. And because Steve and Stephanie have 2 kids, I'm gonna move them out to the Denver suburbs to find larger homes in a better school district. So giving all of these factors in mind, if we give them a 30-year mortgage on current interest rates, we can conservatively say that they would probably be pre-approved for a home with a purchase price of around $325,000. But it's going to stretch their budget. This would only buy them a condo in Aurora, Colorado. Built in 1996, it's older and isn't a single-family home, but it does have a bedroom for each of the children, 2 bathrooms, and updated interiors, which are pretty common things that families search for in US homes. In total, Steve and Stephanie's finances to afford this home will look a lot like this. The principal and interest on their loan will total $1,680. Property taxes are another $173 a month. Homeowners insurance is estimated at an additional $114 per month, and HOA fees are pretty substantial at $375 a month. But it includes 2 garage spots, snow removal, trash, water, and sewer utilities. In total, it means that they will be spending $2,342 per month, which is high and pushes them into spending about 43% of their income. But because this does include some utilities, and because the US allows for the mortgage interest deductions on their taxes, and also gives them a significant financial asset, I do kind of consider this a gray zone. Plus, when we look at apartments for rent in the area, this price for a mortgage is a pretty good deal relative to what an apartment rental cost would be. But over in Germany, whether Max and Mila rent or buy isn't as straightforward. Germany has the 2nd lowest share of homeowners of all OECD countries, which is mostly driven by housing policies that produce incentives to rent. However, with a monthly take-home pay of 6,176 euros and 64 cents, it actually means that they could afford housing costs of around 1,853 euros a month, which would allow them to rent an apartment in West Stuttgart like this one. According to the listing, cold rent or base rent is 1,400 euros, with Nebenkosten amounting to additional 150 euros, which covers heat, building maintenance, and trash. The apartment boasts 2.5-meter high ceilings as well as downtown views, 2 usable cellar storage rooms in the basement, and a large bicycle room that's easily accessible via the inner courtyard. The property does only have 1 bathroom, and the kids will have to share a room, which makes it different from the condo purchased by our American family, but not unusual for what's typically rented by German families. However, this apartment notably does come with a completed kitchen, which isn't always included in German apartments. It also has a generous outdoor space and is located in a pretty desirable neighborhood in Stuttgart, which is an advantage over the American option. The next factor we need to consider is the cost of utilities. And it's a cost of living factor that has unsurprisingly been front and center in our news reporting as of late. The current average rate in the United States for electricity as of January 2023, which is the latest data available, is 16.8 cents per kilowatt hour, according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. In contrast, energy prices for Stuttgart, according to Check24, are roughly 34.54 cents per kilowatt hour, over double the cost. Interestingly, energy prices here in Germany have actually stabilized and even come down since we made the first iteration of this video comparing the costs between the US and Germany. Now, to be fair, even before the war in Ukraine, Germany had one of the highest energy prices in the world. But thanks to robust government subsidies, in combination with a pretty mild winter here in Germany, well, the cost per kilowatt hour has actually been a lot lower than what they initially predicted that it would have been or could have been, which is quite interesting. But on to the numbers. Steve's calculation is honestly quite simple because his rent includes utilities. So although they aren't specific, I'm honestly going to presume that this is all utilities. That's water, sewer, trash, electric, and or gas and internet. In short, we're not going to see a change in his monthly expenses in this category. But over in Germany for Max, once more, it is indicated on the rental listing that he has Nebenkosten, and it includes general cleaning and maintenance of the shared space, trash, heating, and a prepayment towards electricity and water for an additional 210 euros per month. So again, most landlords do a pretty good job of estimating these costs. So realistically, the only additional utilities I need to include on top of this is internet and cable. Currently, an internet and TV package from Telekom is 60 euros and 95 cents a month. And this not only includes high-speed streaming with glass fiber, but also a Netflix subscription and payment to the Rundfunkbeitrag, which covers basic public television and radio, is 18 euros and 36 cents per month. In total, it really only amounts to just over 79 euros per month. But let's go take a look at our families. For Steve and Stephanie's home in Aurora, we do know that their high HOA fee includes trash, water, and sewer. So those utilities have already been accounted for. However, when it comes to electricity, things can be a little bit different. The property listing doesn't give us any information as to whether the home is fully electric or if they use gas utilities. But it does appear that most of their appliances are electric and similar properties in the area are also fully electric. Excel is the electric provider in Aurora, so if we use their online residential pricing structure and adjust their rates for a home that's approximately 1,300 square feet, the estimated usage for 4 people in a fully electric home is 1,300 kilowatt hours per month, which would give them an electric bill of $158 per month. Internet and cable is likely going to be something similar to this Xfinity high-speed cable and internet plan, costing $130 a month. And it's a big plan, but this gives them the flexibility if one of them works from home or wants to stream shows. In total, for electricity, internet, and cable, Steve and Stephanie will pay $288 additionally per month. And last but not least, our German family. I mentioned earlier that Nebenkosten of 150 euros covered heat, building maintenance, and trash, which means that we essentially only need to calculate the cost of electricity and internet and cable. Now, it's important for our American audience to know that electric use in Germany is usually quite different than the usage in the United States. For one, German apartments don't typically have AC, so in the summer months, that's a significant reduction in use. But also, heating is typically covered by an entire building system, just like we see in this scenario here, so we're also not paying to run an electric furnace. In short, this means that the per kilowatt hour usage is lower because they're only paying for the energy to turn on lighting and appliances. While there are a lot of variables, for a 4-person home, 308 kilowatt hours per month is what online calculators seem to come to a consensus on. So given that we know energy costs are currently 34.54 cents per kilowatt hour in Stuttgart, this would mean that they should budget 106 euros and 38 cents on electricity. Tack on the same internet and TV package from Telekom, plus the mandatory payment to the Rundfunkbeitrag, and you arrive at a total of 185 euros and 69 cents per month. Next up is transportation. Now, anyone who has visited Europe is well aware of the fact that a great network of public transportation options are available here. And while Germans love their cars and a speedy trip down the Autobahn, The reality is they still have fewer cars on average than Americans. And as we've discussed on this channel time and time again, quite honestly, in many localities in Germany, you don't necessarily need a car. Because of this robust public transit system, as well as pretty great cycling infrastructure, yeah, you can get around quite easily and safely in ways that don't really exist in the majority of the United States. So let's see the effect that this has on our calculations. Starting with Steve in the United States, let's presume he has a car. And in the States, the average used car payment, according to NerdWallet, is $525. Tack on car insurance in Colorado, which if you purchase the most basic coverage, that just gets you road legal with liability insurance only. A policy from State Farm will cost you $34 a month or $408 per year. Now, unsurprisingly, gasoline is much cheaper in the US than here in Germany. And honestly, since we don't know his commute, driving habits, or car type, we're gonna have to ballpark this one. According to Kelley Blue Book, the 5-year average monthly cost for gasoline for a mid-sized car is $129. And I actually think that's a pretty good conservative estimate. So in total, he spends $822.25 on transportation costs per month. But over in Germany with Max, he's a young guy living in Stuttgart, and he has easy access to buses and S-Bahns that'll take him almost anywhere he needs to get within the city. Plus, he's very close to major airports, train stations that are also accessible by public transit or cycling paths. So if we purchase him an unlimited monthly pass for public transit for the entire Stuttgart network, it costs him just over 205 euros a month. But I think we should probably also tack on a car sharing subscription from Stadtmobil for those times where he does feel like he needs a car. It's pretty cheap. It only costs him €9.50 a month, plus €1.40 an hour, and a per kilometer surcharge of 23 cents per kilometer. It's a little convoluted, but essentially, you don't actually pay for gas or insurance. You just pay for how long and how far you go. So, presuming he's only going to use this a couple weekends a month on an as-needed basis, I'm going to round it to 30 euros a month. In total, it means that he really only pays 235 euros and 83 cents a month in transportation costs. But over in the United States for our family, it's a pretty safe assumption that by living in the US with 2 kids, both Steve and Stephanie would each likely need to have a car. I'm gonna presume that Steve and Stephanie both buy used cars, with Stephanie purchasing this car for $26,998 and Steve purchasing this car for $16,998. Spreading out both of their payments over 4 years at current interest rates, they will pay a combined $1,260 per month. And assuming they take out full coverage car insurance in Colorado, which according to Bankrate.com is $2,019 a year, it amounts for 2 cars to $336.50 a month. And lastly, again, because one car is a sedan and the other is a midsize SUV, the Kelley Blue Book estimate for gasoline costs will be $169 and $176 respectively, totaling $1,941.50 per month. For Max and Mila, things get a bit complicated because they're still located in a pretty well-connected area of Stuttgart from a public transit perspective. If they work within the city, schools and kitas are close by, honestly, they may not need a car at all. They could probably get by with public transit and car sharing just like our single worker. But because the majority of families in Germany do own at least one car, I really do think that's still a fair starting point for this comparison. So I do think we should include one unlimited pass for the Stuttgart public transit system, which again is just over 205 euros a month. But honestly, let's presume that with their financial situation, Max and Mila purchased a used car like this one, with a purchase price of 24,289 euros spread out over a 4-year loan, such as this one from Deutsche Bank. It's gonna give them a monthly rate of about 440 euros a month. Car insurance through Allianz for the exact car with comprehensive coverage for a single driver with no accidents is quoted at 1,072 euros a year, or about 89 euros a month. And presuming they drive 10,000 kilometers a year, at the current rate for gasoline, with a car that gets 7.8 liters per 100 kilometers, This is going to cost them 109 euros and 20 cents per month. In total, together for their transportation costs, they're going to pay 844 euros and 54 cents per month. All right, so this section on food is actually going to be intentionally brief because just at the end of last year, we actually made a video comparing grocery store costs between the US and Germany. So what this means for our scenario is that in the US, the average cost of food per month for one person will likely range anywhere from $150 to $300, depending on your age and eating habits. However, these national averages vary based on, again, where you live and the quality of food that you happen to buy. That being said, estimates provided by the USDA suggests that a young single man has a monthly grocery bill of $265.93. In Germany, Destatis estimates that for a single man living alone, the average costs for food, beverages, and tobacco, interestingly those are grouped together, is 194 euros per month. For our US family of four, their estimated expenditures for groceries go all the way up to $903.19 per month. Again, I'm using data from the USDA Dietary Reference Intake and online research database. And lastly, for Max and Mila, Destatis estimates that their average spending for a family of four would be around 467 euros per month. So here's the thing, this was the point at which in the first iteration of this video, I stopped the recording, I gave you the final numbers, and we wrapped up the video. But today I want to do something a little bit different because I think there are a few extra expenses that I should add in, and ultimately it really goes to sort of hammer the final point of this video home pretty well. In 2023, all of our workers will likely have a cell phone with a data plan. They will probably also need a few extra pairs of clothes, toiletries, and maybe the kids need clothes for sports or extracurricular activities and school supplies. Then of course there's entertainment. And maybe it's not extravagant, but you might want to catch a movie, buy a new book, go out to eat once in a while, or grab a beer with your friends. And this isn't even everything, but at the end, our total estimation comes out looking like this. So for me, this is what I find super interesting because probably the biggest critique I had on last week's video was that Stephanie's income was way too high. Many of you said that by making as much as she made, it wasn't truly painting a picture of what life is like when you're working hourly wages in a low-income household. And to be honest, that's totally fair. There are a lot of families out there that are making significantly less than Steve and Stephanie while still having the same or very similar expenditures. But what I calculated today, I don't personally think is extraordinarily extravagant by American standards. They're not living in a standalone home, they're living in a condo. And yeah, they do have 2 cars with payments, but she's making 6 figures, right? Yet still, after accounting for all of the everyday expenses, our American family went into debt. And at their joint household income, they wouldn't qualify for WIC, food stamps, or low-income housing assistance. And that's my point. I think we really have a gross misunderstanding of what a livable wage actually is in the United States. Because to bring this American family, which by the way makes $150,000 a year in gross income, out of debt, well, beyond just simply saying, well, cut out all of the fluff, they don't get to have fun, they don't get to eat out, they don't need new clothes, that's still not gonna cut it. At least 3 major things have to happen for them. For starters, they're probably not going to be able to own a home and build wealth through home ownership. They're going to need to rent a much, much cheaper apartment somewhere even further away from work, which then would probably cost them more in gas. And realistically, they're probably only going to be able to afford 1 used car payment. and essentially just hope that that second car is both fully paid off and doesn't break down or need any form of maintenance. And last but not least, this family is going to need to pray that they don't get sick or incur any form of major medical bill. And this is again for a family earning double the median gross household yearly income in the United States. All right, guys, so, I think that's a pretty sobering end to this video, and I think that's a good place to stop. I think we have a lot of food for thought, and I'm personally really looking forward to the comment section below, just hearing from you guys on what you think about the final numbers and about ultimately what this means for the quality of life between the United States and Germany. But as always, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that like button, share the video with your friends, and if you would like to see more from the Black Forest family, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. So, I'll see you next Sunday. Tschüss!